Good evening, everyone. Being that it's 7:02, we're going to call the meeting to order. Michelle, can you please read the sunshine law?
This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards filed with the Borough Clerk and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, the Star Ledger, and the Two River Times.
Great, thank you. Can we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Cooper. Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Here.
Councilmember Good.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Here.
Councilmember Sheridan.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
And for the record, Borough Administrator Jay Delaney.
Here.
And Borough Attorney Mark Moon.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. If everyone can please silence their cell phones in the background or mute themselves unless they're in the process of speaking, just for noise cancellation issues when we're doing playback stuff and the recordings for the assistant clerk to be doing the minutes. It's been a little difficult with the background noise lately. With that, if everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everyone could please remain standing, today's moment of silence will be in dedication of Veterans Day being tomorrow, as well as everyone that's still working diligently to fight off this virus, as well as anyone that family that has been impacted by the virus. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we're very fortunate to have an organization that's nearby. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I'm not sure why one. There it goes. Sorry. We have an organization that's located in the next municipality in Hazlitt. They are a relatively new organization, but got off the ground running. And there were some misconceptions in the beginning when they were first being established. And Captain Torres had asked if we would be open to having one of the Board of Trustee members join the council meeting to present what actually they're all about and what they offer to the community as a whole. Our police department does the partnership with them, but there's so much more that they offer. So we're lucky tonight to have Vincent Salamino with us, who is going to give you the complete explanation of what Hazlitt Hope is really about. Vincent? Sorry, Mr. Salamino.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to the members of the council, those who are attending tonight. I believe I'm also joined by Laura O'Hara, who is a member of our Board of Trustees, our secretary.
Great.
Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Laura, you there?
You know, I'm not as good to Zoom. Hello, everybody. I was muted. Thank you, Vinny.
Sometimes Laura is on the Board of Trustees. She wishes she could mute me in real life, but we'll suffice with Zoom right now. I'm going to just take 5 minutes of your time, answer any questions. Mayor, is Captain Torres available to be with us tonight?
She's on the call too.
Okay. So again, if you have any questions about, how Hazlitt's Hope Network works, not just in my community, but in your community, Shannon has been really one of our most outstanding pillars of support in helping connect folks who are struggling with substance abuse or who love someone who's in that struggle, helping connect them to rehabilitation as opposed to retribution. And I think it's a really important shift change that we've seen in law enforcement in our area, but I'll let her speak to that. So Ms. Clark, thank you for helping me with the technical requirements. Is there a way to broadcast the presentation? I don't know if that's possible.
You're muted.
It's a PowerPoint slide, correct?
Yep.
There's no sound, correct?
No, there's no sound. I was just going to talk through it.
Okay, and then you'll just let me know when you want me to move to the next slide.
Yeah, I
That
appreciate
works?
that.
Okay. All right, we'll get started.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
And for folks who have their Zoom set to like active speaker while I'm talking, you're welcome to look at my ugly mug. But if you set it to gallery view, you might be able to see the PowerPoint that Michelle's gonna show. There we go. Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're all on the same page. So I'm going to begin just with the first slide and then move on to the next one. We're called Hazlitt's Hope Network, but we work throughout the Bayshore, as we'll see in a moment. If we can move to the next slide, please. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
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 Oh, okay, cool. So as the mayor noted, we're a relatively young organization. We were established in 2016, which, as so many people on this call in our communities know, we were facing in Hazlitt and in our surrounding area in the Bayshore, just it seemed like every other week you would hear news about. For me, it was another young person, a friend who had, overdosed or who had succumbed in some way, shape, or form to substance abuse. So we got together with our chief of police, who just retired this year, Chief Phil Meehan, and a group of volunteers said, is there a different way to approach this? So together with Chief Meehan, we were able to create, what we call a peer-to-peer support network that also partners with law enforcement. We're currently working, and we're all volunteers working in Hazlitt, Homedale, Keensburg, Keyport, Red Bank, and Union Beach. I believe Keyport was actually the second town that joined us in 2017, I want to say. The last bullet here is, I think if anyone takes anything away, is one of the most important functions of Hazlitt's Hope Network. We operate a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week crisis line. It's a local number. We did that intentionally. And it is operated not by me, but by, I'm a trustee, but manned by certified recovery coaches who volunteer of their time and are working with law enforcement as well as first responders in different towns, depending on the town. The volunteer first aids have adopted this model. So if someone calls to seek treatment or help, or if you're a family member who just needs someone to talk to, you have a certified recovery coach and certified through the state of New Jersey to talk through some of these difficult issues. Our ultimate goal is to get folks to treatment so that the reoccurrence, and if you're looking at it from a law enforcement point of view, the bad conduct does not repeat itself. We can interrupt that cycle. And again, I do want to acknowledge Captain Torres and the women and men of the Keyport Police Department who have just been outstanding partners as we go about our work, as well as Sophia Lamberson, who's been a volunteer and a member of our organization from the start. Our next slide, please. I will let you read that. It's basically what I just touched upon. If we can go to the next slide, please. Our vision, this is something that we've been very intentional about, both our mission, our vision. We came out just before COVID. As a board, we developed a strategic plan to try and improve our organization, expand our reach, and help more people. So really our vision is to connect with law enforcement and other first responders, because they're the ones on the front lines, so that if they encounter an individual who needs assistance, law enforcement feels confident that they can call our crisis line, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, someone will be able to respond, and we will then be able to connect that person to treatment. In our vision statement, we've also, and this was part of our strategic plan, we've also begun to do more education in high schools as well as in middle schools. Next slide, please. So we talk as an organization about a hub and spoke model. So I've talked about our recovery coaches. I've talked about our law enforcement. We have individuals who, like me, are volunteers who don't go out on calls, but help with fundraising or help to give a presentation like this. We have family members. We have individuals who have been parents of those who have dealt with substance abuse, and they form a really important spoke in our wheel. We have a monthly family group meeting where folks can confidentially seek support, as they try and support their loved ones. We also work with faith leaders in our community. On our board of trustees, we have a member of the clergy, very involved on a regular basis with all that we do. The president of our board of trustees is an educator who works in the Hazlet Township Public Schools, and he's been at the forefront of kind of expanding our scope into the school system so that we can communicate. It's not the old-fashioned, DARE Nancy Reagan model, but trying to think of innovative ways that we can educate young people about the dangers posed by, substance abuse and how that leads into that cycle of addiction. Local businesses, as well as organizations with shared values. And those organizations with shared values could be everything from the Drug Alliance that we have in Hazlet and Keyport to, the Stigma Free Coalition. And I want to thank you. I know on October 20th, the mayor and council in Keyport adopted Stigma Free language, which is being really spearheaded by Monmouth County government, as well as statewide by the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. So that's the kind of idea of organizations with shared values. Next slide, please. So we, where we find ourselves as this wheel is we, number one, we're in the middle there working with folks like Captain Torres or other folks who are on the job and the individual who needs help, standing in police stations to try and connect them to the support that they need. They don't always take it, but we're always there to offer it. Those recovery services that we connect them to. What's I think very important to highlight is, in 2016, one of the things we did at the beginning of this was to say, okay, we're going to work with a wide spectrum of folks, right? We're not going to just be sending someone to New Hope here in Monmouth County, which is a recovery facility. But we are going to make sure that we have a diverse group of places that meet the needs of the individual who needs that support. So we do fundraising, and some of the things we've paid for is to pay for plane tickets for an individual to go out of state for treatment. We've helped folks who don't have insurance by helping them with a scholarship so that they can attend these recovery centers. And all of our outcomes, as we call them, are tracked and reported monthly, completely confidential because of the individuals we help. But as a trustee with the fiduciary responsibility, one of my priorities and our priorities as a group is to make sure that we are tracking where these individuals are going, making sure it's that diverse cross-section of centers based on their needs and outcomes. How are they doing when they come out? And that's a kind of post-engagement relationship that our recovery coaches have with them. If we can go to the next slide, please. Here we give you a snapshot, misspoke, Keyport was 2018, of when the different police departments worked to partner with us. Again, I mentioned his name, he's now retired, but Chief Phil Meehan was instrumental in helping us build relationships with the Bayshore Chiefs and helping us develop the processes and procedures that are not only going to help people, but that are transparent and build trust and confidence with our law enforcement partners. Next slide, please. This is my favorite slide of the whole deck, because if you were to delete everything else, all my talking, this gives you an idea of how we work. So either a police officer, an individual, or a family member dials that local crisis line 739-7717. They reach a volunteer coach who we have trained through a state of New Jersey approved training, and our organization raised the money to train. I think right now we have 8 recovery coaches. That number goes up and down depending on folks' availability. We connect them to services and support. And then on the back end, we provide peer support, mentoring, and follow-up if it's a family member, if it's anyone, but we provide follow-up with an emphasis on our family support group. Next slide, please. Okay, I've already talked about the monthly support group. If there's anyone on this call who is interested in learning more about that, Hazlitt's Hope Network at gmail.com if you want to confidentially reach out. Again, it's led by one of our faith leaders, a member of the clergy, and we've been going to Zoom because of the pandemic, but just recently we started to go back to in-person meetings for those who need a family support group. Next slide, please. And community education programs. So you'll see things like Knockout Opioid Abuse Day. We recently just completed one that was entirely virtual, and Keyport did partner with that through Barbara Hilliard and the Alliance. We've done programs at Brookdale Community College, as well as, I'm misspeaking. I think it was the Drug Free New Jersey event that we just did in October. Next slide, please. Governance. Our Board of Trustees is volunteer folks from across the community with lots of different backgrounds. Our treasurer is Tom Furlong, an outstanding CPA. You may know our volunteer legal counsel, who's right there in Keyport, Gary Lindroth, who helps a lot of nonprofits. And our job as trustees really is to make sure that we can raise the money and provide the resources for our volunteer recovery coaches and our law enforcement partners to make sure that this program is effective and working. The one thing that we say, as an organization is the moment we lose someone's trust is the moment we forfeit that trust forever. So it's important to us that we're training our volunteers, that we're answering that call when law enforcement reaches out, and that we're meeting on a regular basis to track the outcomes of the individuals that we're trying to help. Next slide, please. I already touched on how we support our mission through our various fundraising activities. This year, due to the pandemic, we are not fundraising. We're still taking donations, but we felt that given that we all live in the Bayshore and people are struggling, that we would wait until we were in a better economic picture to fundraise. Next slide, please. These are some of our sponsors who have worked and helped to support all that we do. And we're very grateful for them. Next slide, please. So subject to your questions, that concludes my presentation. Laura or Captain Torres, please feel free to chime in. Tell me where I missed something.
I think
Palomino, thank you so much for doing the presentation. Is it possible that you could just touch base on what the requirements are to become a recovery coach, and in case someone wanted to maybe reach out to see if they could go through that training?
I'll actually ask Laura, one of our trustees, to field that question, Mayor, because she's actually gone through the training herself.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, thank you. Vinny, great job. I think the most number one with the training is you need to have life experience. For me, I've been trained because I unfortunately have that life experience. It is a certified program. We use now CARES. It's a program out of Morris County, and anyone that has a person in recovery, if you have at least a year substance free, you can reach out and we will talk to you about providing the training. We still, as a board, have to come up with some parameters because we train them. We want them to stick around a little longer. So we're working on some of those things. We have 10 coaches right now, and we don't get called out every day. So the best thing to do would be send an email, and we can provide the better details.
And Mayor, to the actual practical parts of the training, Laura, if I'm correct, it's like 10 weeks of an 8-hour Saturday block of instruction?
Correct.
Okay. And we paid to have that training, and what Laura's alluding to is some of the folks that we paid for are no longer volunteering. So that's a challenge we face, but we're grateful for the recovery coaches that we do have.
Correct. Thanks, Vin.
Great. Thank you. Captain Torres, did you want to add anything?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Vincent, for that great presentation, and Laura as well. I just want to let you guys know how our experience has been with working with Hazlitt's Hope. When we first got involved, we really didn't know how it was going to go. And so once we gave the directive to our officers, to start to reach out to these recovery coaches, it was a very new experience, and a kind of a new way of policing for us to offer this. So it's not easily accepted sometimes for us to call out a recovery coach, especially among the officers. We have our doubts always. And once we started rolling with them, they have never not answered our calls. Every single one of our officers is not only now on board, but loves the program. They have come at all different times when needed. To us, it's been an invaluable resource. It's a way of connecting them with a coach who can sit down and kind of do all the hard work with them. We have them come into headquarters in a safe location, and we give them a period of time to meet with the person. They come out quickly, they respond, they have resources. They have even so much as flown people out immediately right from our headquarters. So our experience has been phenomenal. We would hope to see more Keyport residents. We would like to see our Keyport people and residents get involved. What our goal would be, we would love to see maybe a Keyport recovery coach or so. That's it. I just want to share our experience and how it's been working with us. I'm glad that they were able to present this to you guys, and thank you for listening.
If I can.
Thank you, Captain.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I picked up the mantle left, behind by former Councilwoman Lamberson, and, this has been a great program. It's been a great addition to the Services Municipal Alliance, to the police department, to the people of the community. I think that this is the kind of thought process we need to be entering when we're trying to help people through recovery. And I'm very grateful to have them in the Bayshore. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Salamino and Laura, and happy Veterans Day, and thanks for serving our country, Mr. Salamino.
Thanks, Mayor. Can I say one thing? I have a thank you too. I want to thank Councilman Cooper and Councilman Sheridan for all you've done for Keyport. Thank you.
Yeah, they are definitely going to be missed. Great.
May I add?
Sure. Councilman Cooper, hold the space bar down, and absolutely, you can speak.
Okay. One thing I would like to know, Chief, Captain Torres, are you networking with all the other emergencies in the county to add services, to add to the services that you already provide?
So we meet monthly and we do network with the other police departments that are involved for Hazlet Hope, but they've been our resource once a recovery coach is called out.
Thank you. One thing I'd like to add too, I know Captain Torres has worked tirelessly, especially with emergencies. And one of the things we like to do is the housing and other problems that they have that are related. We like to put as many people on to whatever we can as possible. And we need to know about each other.
That's awesome. And thank you, Councilman Cooper.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank everybody involved. I want to thank Vincent for the wonderful presentation, Victoria, former Councilwoman Sophia Lamberson, and Captain Torres for the foundations that they've built, not only to provide this service, but to work to eliminate the stigma that comes along with people who have this disease, and especially when they're seeking help. And that's something that this program really provides. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. And those who are involved or who have family members that might have this disease understand how important it is to get to somebody when they are in their lowest moment. And usually that's when they're in a police station or in a hospital. And it warms my heart that after all this time, mainstream society is seeing the light and seeing the path that we can follow to help those, especially now with the opioid epidemic as deadly as it is. Thanks for giving me some time to say that.
Okay, anyone else?
It's Councilwoman McDermott. I think one of the things that'd be helpful as well, especially for fundraising, if you guys have some data points of success rates, your impact that you made in a community, that would help especially when it comes to fundraising and campaigning out there. Like the value you've had in Keyport at different boroughs. So I think that's one of the things that, and I know you guys are doing a tremendous job, but I think that would be one of the things that help us advocate more for you.
Definitely, Councilwoman. I don't know that I have the Keyport breakdown, but you know what? I don't want to give you a bad number, but we have helped.
Captain Torres has it.
No, but the overall number is, Laura, do you remember? We just reviewed this. It's like,
yeah. So it's about 64.
That was it. I was going to say 60.
And of that, 30% of them were scholarshiped into a private treatment facility. And that's through our sponsors of people that offer that service.
That's incredible, and I can tell you that it wasn't always like that. You wouldn't get beds when people were looking for help. There were not beds. So you guys need to be commended 1,000 times over. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all of the network and things that we've been able to do. If I could pull up the no, it just went down. I was going to tell you the number for Keyport, but my machine didn't cooperate. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I really appreciate it and the information, and we will continue to share the information in any which way we can for you. And I'm glad Captain Torres has put this request in to, as I said, in the last year or two, there's been some misconceptions out there. So I'm glad that this is helping clear the air. So thank you again.
Thank you. Can I just say one thing? With Captain Torres, what you were saying about, in the beginning, I know this from Phil, who's one of the coaches who has direct contact with these guys and men and women. They call back in and want to check in on the person that was, their person of interest. Your police officers are very vested in this, and I think that's something that is awesome. They check back in and say, hey, where's so and so? How are they doing? So I just think that's something that you all should know. What great, you already know, but they're great people there.
Thank you.
100%.
Thanks for everything you do.
Okay. Thank you for presenting and being on the call tonight.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, now, as we move along onto the rest of the agenda, before we ask for a motion to open to the public, I just want to point out that we'll be pulling resolution 265-20 this evening to table that for future after a Complete Streets meeting yesterday with the consultants, Mr. Delaney, Councilman Pacheco, and Councilman Fotopoulos. The timing of this is just too close to the winter, and we've decided to hold off on this project for a little while, which actually helps because there were still some pending pieces that weren't exactly finalized yet. So instead of rushing it along, we're tabling that one and we're working on a different demonstration project instead, potentially. So 265-20 we're going to table. Does any other council member have anything they need to table or remove before we open it to the public from the agenda? No? Okay. So can I please have a motion to open to the public for commentary or on the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do any members of the public on video have anything? If so, raise your hand, please. Okay. Anyone on the phone line, if you would wish to speak, please unmute yourself by pushing *6. Anyone from the public wish to speak on the agenda?
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport.
Hi, Mr.
Good
Lane.
evening, Mayor, members of council.
Good evening.
Okay. My items on the agenda are the following. Under committee reports, Councilman Fotopoulos, liaison to the Harbor Commission. At the 9:15 KBC meeting, it was stated that the borough engineer would determine the location of the second floodgate. The second floodgate has been installed, and it's been installed in a location that floods very much. As a matter of fact, it's flooded a dozen times in the last 2 months, projected to flood 50 times in a year. And this is a location where vehicles would be vectored or steered into deeper water in Fireman's Park than the water is actually in the bend on American Legion Drive. So if you could give how that decision was made, that'd be great. Councilwoman Pacheco, liaison to the police department. At the 9/1 Keyport Council meeting, I had the perception there was, enthusiasm for implementing a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit in the borough and on the county roads. And this would be something that we'd really take action on. I also had the perception at the last council meeting that there was an issue that needed significant police department input. So could you report on the status and whether we've gotten over that hurdle? Councilman Good, the liaison to the planning board. Again, give a timeline for the implementation of the pump station and the pumps location on First Street to drain the water out of 25 East Front Street. Mayor Kennedy or the borough administrator, if you could give a status of the initiative to, and I'll quote, just install 25-mile-per-hour speed limit signs on Broad Street north of West Front Street in alignment with the 8/28/20 county letter saying this is a 25-mile-an-hour zone. The unfinished business. if on the TAP Pedestrian Safety Improvement Program, if you could identify who on council has this as a deliverable or an objective. CME timeline hasn't been defined for the milestones, for the letter to the residents, and for the stakeholders meetings. And when I walk down First Street, almost every property has a white mark or a pink mark indicating extensive survey work. Also, who on the council has the community CSR program as a deliverable? And what do we have to do to make some progress on that? That's all I have at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Any other members of the public have anything on the agenda?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Graham.
Hi, Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. Can you all explain Resolution 26620?
Sure. Mr. Delaney, you want to, that's the NJDOT Transportation Alternative Set Aside Program.
Yes, this resolution.
We don't hear you.
Can't hear you, Jay.
Not yet.
We still don't hear you.
Is that better?
Now there's an echo.
Okay. I think
But yes,
the
we
echo's
can
gone
hear
now.
you now. That's the good news.
Sorry for the technical issue there. To answer Mr. Graham's question regarding Resolution R266, this resolution authorizes the submission of a grant application under the NJDOT Transportation Set Aside Program. This program sets aside funding for non-motorized and alternative forms of transportation improvements. In our case, the project that has been identified are pedestrian and bikeway improvements along Green Grove Avenue from the Henry Hudson Trail to the municipal border with Hazlet at the Chinkagora Creek.
Okay. Thank you there. Also, can you all explain Resolution 26920?
Mayor, would you like me to address that?
Yeah, I don't have my agenda.
Yeah. This resolution is closing out the renovations to the water treatment plant. That project was completed in the summer. There were funds that were reserved for final payment for some minor punch list items. Those items have been addressed, and this resolution authorizes the release of that retainage as well as closing out the project.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Please unmute yourself. Okay. Can I please have a motion to close to the public?
Mike Lane, I just want to add one question on top of what Elmer asked. The resolution for the bikeway along Green Grove and the sidewalk indicates it'll be on property that the borough owns. I've driven up and down Green Grove multiple times, and there's homes that line each side of the street from the the Henry Hudson Trail to the cemetery and to the new Bay Point apartments. Where is this sidewalk? Where is this bikeway sidewalk going to be constructed? If you could answer that.
I can address that. Actually, there's a minor amendment or correction to the resolution. The resolution should reflect that instead of being property owned by the borough, that it should indicate that the property is all located within the borough of Keyport.
All right, so that's a significant change in the resolutions. And secondly, the area is already has sidewalks on both sides of the streets and homes almost right next to the sidewalk. Cars parked in the front yards right to the sidewalk edge. So have you really thought about this one? Thank you.
Thank you. And there was an updated resolution circulated today, right, Michelle? Oh, we're doing it on the fly when right. When you guys talked about, right? Okay. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on items on the agenda? Can I please have a motion to close to the public?
Motion to close to the public.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to committee reports. Councilman Cooper, just hold the space bar down, please.
Nothing.
Thank you. Councilman Vatopoulos. Councilman Vatopoulos.
Yep, just pulling it up. Okay, thank you, Mayor. First thing I want to do is recognize the veterans that I know that are here, beginning with Councilman Sheridan, Councilman Cooper, our resident bubbleheads, and Mr. Graham and Captain Torres. Thank you for your service. And for my friends who are Marines, happy birthday, Marine. The total collected in the health the total collected in the health office for the month of October was $2,252.40. I was speaking with our county health inspector, Larry Casca, and I was pleased that he made a point of discussing the synergy he shares with Donna Purcell, our health secretary and registrar of vital statistics. It's a smooth going relationship between the two of them, and as they navigate through this COVID crisis and continue to proceed with the work needed to be done from an inspections perspective, they've done so, in my understanding, without a hitch. And they're both to be commended, but I'm appreciative of that and our health secretary and registrar. The Monmouth County Board of Health does report that there have been 3 additional cases since yesterday, over the last day, and there are 153 cumulative cases of COVID-19 in the borough of Keyport. I'm going to ask that everybody follow the guidance and guidelines that have been handed down by the governor to not only keep our community safe, but also keep our neighbors and neighboring communities safe as well. It would be a shame if we were to have to resort to larger shutdowns. I know that the governor doesn't want to do that, and certainly neither do I. I don't think I'd like to see our businesses thrive if possible through the winter. The Keyport Environmental Commission, we did meet. There were many discussions, but points of interest, and I'm going to focus on these because it's a little bit tonight. The BDA, or Brownfield Development Area Committee, used to meet regularly, at least once a year. And based on some of the discussions I've had with members of both the Environmental Commission and the Harbor Commission, and also members of the community who've been involved, in particular Mr. Lane, who's on the call tonight, I'd like to see us reinstate the committee and have a meeting to update the ownership list for the properties that are designated within the BDA area. For example, the former Peterson's Marina has changed ownership, and that needs to be noted. That needs to be updated by the committee. We also need to update the membership list of the committee. I'm not even sure who's on the committee. I only know that resident Lynn Kasabuki is the chairperson of that committee. On another note, the beach sweeps did occur to a resounding success. Collected a total of 900 pounds of trash, 400 pounds of recyclables, 270 pounds of lumber, 300 pounds of iron, for an approximate total of 1,870 pounds of trash. Now that's nearly a ton, and that's pretty consistent for beach sweeps. Some items of interest were a plastic chicken toy, a leather vest, one boot, a brake drum, and an old metal cog, and a grill rack. All volunteers were practicing safe social distancing and PPE guidelines, and thanks again to Mike Palmisano for his continued and usual stellar effort to the invaluable help that this beach sweep offers. I'd also like to recognize and thank Tom Gallo, who was particularly present at this year's, he is every year, but he was the one who was organizing all the trash, all the recyclables and everything this year. And he has always the appreciation of a grateful community and of course of the Environmental Commission and me. Even with the restrictions and the participation was fantastic, and I'm proud of the year-over-year participation at the Cedar Street Beach and the beach sweeps. The Environmental Commission also discussed the noise pollution and speeding on transit streets in the borough. The perception is that especially the noise is getting worse. We've talked about this a number of times. Indeed, when I'm working around on Beers, Main, Maple, and First Street in particular, even Second Street, the noise and speeding is, well, significant. The Harbor Commission also met, and we need to start having the hard conversation about how we're going to pay for a buildup of the bulkhead and Fireman's parking lot at the borough's portion of Fireman's Park. I'm working and spoke with Mr. Delaney, our administrator, and also hope to get the engineers together as well to discuss the raising of the bulkhead and the parking lot at Fireman's Park when we get a sense as to when the owners of the Port 149 project will break ground. It's the consensus of both the Harbor and the Environmental Commission that the building of the bulkhead should happen at the same time that they're building theirs. So any kind of approvals or anything we need to acquire like they do, we should start making that happen now. The boat slip piling was fixed at a cost of $4,500 to the BRIT or RBIT account. And the next meeting of the Harbor Commission, they'll do a contract review for the 21 contracts from the previous contracts and recommend any changes, if any, that they might have. And thank you to Administrator Delaney, who has already supplied those old contracts in speedy fashion. Concurrent to the discussion we had about the Environmental Commission and the Air and Marine property, the Harbor Commission concurs that we as a borough need to address the conditions at the Air and Marine site, which is a brownfield. We should make it a priority, and there is a great concern about the erosion and debris that the Air and Marine landfill is generating. And the Harbor Commission recommends continued enforcement on the property owner that they do what they need to do to keep the environment safe and also our borough. And Mr. Lane asked about the floodgate, and we did discuss that at the Harbor Commission. And it is my understanding that the final decision, maybe you can help me, Councilwoman Pacheco, the final decision was where to put this was made by Chief Hafner?
Yes, that actually we met, was it we met late last week. Myself, Chief Hafner, Captain Torres, Trevor Taylor, the engineer, Councilman McDermott, and our borough administrator to discuss the placement of the gate. That gate was picked, that particular spot was picked because there were concerns regarding vehicles safely being able to turn around in other locations, in particular West Front Street. There will be lighted signs added to the gate to help with visibility. And there was discussion about making changes to the entrances and the exits of that parking lot that are currently under review. Captain Torres, have I left anything out? I was looking through my notes while I was making the bullets for this.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. It was in my report.
Okay, and thank you very much, and thanks for your indulgence to let me involve Councilwoman Pacheco in that discussion. That's all I have. Oh, and I'm hoping at some point I see Mr. Kelsey on here. Mr. Kelsey, we're going to meet about the parking committee. Let's do it this week. All right, cool.
I just want to clarify for members of the public when you're talking about the total number of cases in Keyport. I know you mentioned it, but I just want to emphasize that that 153 is cumulative since the onset in March. I understand.
Yeah,
but I also want to clarify. I know.
No,
I just want to clarify that when there's a jump in numbers, so we went up 3 cases from yesterday. We should just watch over the next day or two to see if that comes back down, because this is probably reason number 465 millionth reason why we need to emphasize the importance of having the zip code backed out to be our own, and that 5 municipalities should not be sharing it with ours, especially across counties. So what's happening is when the numbers come in first, everything goes into 07735, and then county has this whole time had to hire additional staff that then takes the data and then re-enters it with the appropriate 4 code. So that 153, the addition of 3, tomorrow you might see it back down to 150 or 151, and I just want to explain and remind everyone, we explained that way in the beginning of the onset of this, but a lot of people have forgotten that part. So I just want to put that out there. So thank you for your report. Councilman Gunn.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see, with regard to the fire department, in October, there were 2 cooking fires, 6 medical assists, 1 water rescue, a natural gas leak response, total of 28 calls, 181 man hours, bringing the year-to-date numbers, 292 calls, about 1,820 man hours. Eagle Hose, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, was handing out their Santa visit letters. So they're going to be proceeding along with that in a, I guess, a pandemic light manner, of course. The Keyport Fire Museum won the Best Place to Volunteer in Monmouth County, awarded by the Reader's Choice Contest for 2020. So I'd like to congratulate them on that. Just gotta give a little, I know we missed this one, but October 28th was National First Responders Day. So I think that was important to note. And with regard to the question Mr. Lane asked about the pump station, I'm gonna have to turn that one over to Mr. Delaney, who I know has been in contact with Trevor and trying to get a response, at least from those homeowners. So I'm going to leave it with him to answer that one, and that's all I have.
Mayor, would you like me to address that now? The pump station, the borough engineer has notified the property owner and put them on a deadline of, I believe it's December 1st, to provide us with specifics on the replacement. That had been previously delivered. There have been discussions underway with an alternative to actually upgrade and relocate the pump facility. I'll have a report for you at the December meeting, but those discussions are underway.
Cutting out again.
Councilman McDermott.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to first report about the rec committee. Due to inclement weather and rising tides, the October 30th trunk and treat was canceled. I do want to thank everyone who worked on that, committee members, as well as borough employees, like the RBA, and as well as our police department. And so again, unfortunately, we couldn't have it, but we do appreciate everyone's efforts involved to potentially have this happen. Just to let everyone know, refunds for the Triple Crown have been released and distributed out to participants. And typically what they've been doing is refunding your credit card that you put on file. So again, that's been closed out for all 3 races that we participate in due to the cancellation of the 5K this year. And the Library Construction Committee, some unfortunate news. We were working to have we applied for a grant for phase 2 in September for 2020. We were not accepted, but we are still in consideration for phase 3, which should be released hopefully if we do receive, it will be released in January 2021. So we received that news recently today. I do want to note that if there are any requests for service that's not related to emergencies, please use the borough request for service link. And again, that helps us track, monitor, respond to things as quickly as we can. I do want to thank our DBW, especially with the amount of work and activity with the warm weather. We've had more activity outside, which has been really great for our community, but also involves more work that they have to do. And also with their partnership with the KCC. And I do have some news, a report for that. So I do want to note that I have some unfortunate news. Mr. Tom Gallo has decided to not continue as a coordinator for the KCC, but I do want to thank him for his 5 to 6 years of service with this as an amazing coordinator, and also with all his work that he does in the community as well. He's not gone, but we are working with our borough administrator to figure out new ways to have the KCC coordinator continue. The budget for 2019 has been exhausted. The 2020 funding is in place, and the NJCC grant monies can be extended and used beyond the 12-month calendar. That includes for 2021, so we can carry that over to 2022. The program funded by manufacturers of top litter materials has supported the purchase of the street sweeper brushes, public trash can liners, roadway signs damaged by graffiti that are beyond cleaning, volunteer cleanups, and the day-to-day litter programs. I do want to thank the Cub Scouts for coming out to clean, to volunteer. They did their annual volunteer cleanup from Broad Street to Lloyd Road. So thank you for volunteering. There was 22 adults and scouts split into 2 teams, and they collected 418 pieces. And I do want to thank Joe Carson, who's been involved. He's been working through the entire time without any injuries and working out there for us, ensuring, that our community is clean. So thank you for his service. I do also want to thank the department for all your work during this COVID-19. I know there's been a lot of creative ways of doing inspections and things like that in our properties and municipality buildings and everything else that we need to do. So I do want to thank the building department for all you do and your flexibility, ensuring that you're safe, as well as whomever we're doing we'll conduct these services for. So we do have a total of 22,710 collected this month. And that involved 235 different permits being issued, including 56 smoke detectors, as well as 56 code enforcement permits out there. So again, I want to thank everyone for the efforts, especially as we are going to our potentially to peaks now, and we have to be even more conscious of what we're doing out there with our engagement socially and also internally within our fellow coworkers. And I also want to lastly thank everyone for their support as my sister-in-law passed away a few weeks ago, and as we went through some of the things that we needed to do. So my family, my husband and I really appreciate everyone's condolences and support during a very difficult time. But she's in a better place, and she's an angel now, overlooked with us now always. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Pacheco?
Yeah, so we had 995 calls for service this month with the police department and 53 open case files. I'll go through the usual numbers. Were 2 Narcan saves. I noticed an uptick, and I don't know, maybe it's just because I hadn't been paying attention in the crisis calls. So this is a good moment for, just to remember it's a tough time for everybody. We should try to take care of each other and ourselves. Sorry, my report got cut in half because I already gave some of it.
Sorry.
No worries. This month we had 2 officer exposures to COVID-19 and both were put on quarantine. So it is again on the rise. So the police department, just wants to reiterate that all employees and residents adhere to the CDC guidelines, wear your masks, wash your hands, keep social distancing. So I already spoke about the meeting, about the gates. Just to give a little update about the county roads. So the police department approached the county, put together the 3 years of reports analysis of the accidents, put together the research. The police department met with the BA, and as per Jay, the county will be installing the speed limit signs, and we're just waiting of notice of when. So when we have an update, we will certainly let everybody know. I will have further green team and MAC updates for the next month. And I just wanted to again thank Hazlitt Soap for everything they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Sheridan.
Thank you, Mayor. Finance meeting happening a week from this Thursday. And as I don't have too many meetings left, I want to say a couple thank yous. First of all, I love the floodgate on American Legion Drive. It's tall. It looks, I think it's going to do the job very well. If we get lights on it, it'll be better. But it's going to look a lot better than just sawhorses and sandbags and things like that. And I think it's very creative. And where it is will work fine. And I think it's a good job with it.
Councilman Sheridan. The lights are coming.
Good. That'll make it better. I'd like to start with thanking the DPW for cleaning up the large limbs and the trees from Cedar Street and Beach Park on the beach. I guess they found a way to get a vehicle down there, and it looks great. And not only that, but the boat ramp. I made the mention of that as I'm walking around, and Councilwoman McDermott and the DPW do a great job, and they're very responsive. And I can't recall a time when they've been more responsive. So Bob Kutchman and his guys have been doing a fantastic job with Keyport. Moving on, I want to thank Chief Hafner and Captain Torres and Keyport's finest. I've never had a bad experience with the police. I just enjoy saying hi to them, waving to them as I drive by. I feel safe. Listening to all the calls that have been reported by Councilwoman Pacheco, it's like they never stop, 24/7, and they're just phenomenal. Fire, Chief Joe Muscatello and Keyport's bravest. It's nothing burns in Keyport. It's just you could name. Fires. They're out helping with medical. If there's flooding, just every sort of way to help. The fire department will be there, and they never ask for much. It's just they work on a shoestring budget, and they lost their fair this year. So finance, we're looking at ways of helping them, but they're just phenomenal. First aid, Chief Ken Crowley. I stopped running calls back in March and April just because I couldn't protect my family from COVID-19 if I got it. But they're relentless. There's a group of volunteers, and not only do they pick up Keyport's calls, but they picked up Aberdeen's calls, and it's phenomenal the work they do. Demand it seems to be going up, and they're taking all their precautions they can, and they're not getting sick, so they're doing the right precautions. But Chief Ken Crowley's doing a great job with that. CERT is always there, and they never get named enough. And just going to our side, Jack Straub of KBBC, I talk to him almost weekly. I think great things are going with Keyport with that. Tom Gallo, I'm going to be really sad to see him go as a Keyport community, Clean Communities guy. He's phenomenal with that. It's just any Saturday, Sunday morning, you get up, you see that white truck driving all around. And same thing with Joe. They're always cleaning up, and nobody ever complains about trash anymore in Keyport because of them. Going to our council here and Michelle, what a great job she's done all year long. The minutes are up to date. This IT stuff, it's not easy. And she's been making it work. And just what a phenomenal help she's been all year long. Council with their reports, just one thing after another. I'm watching this and just, I can't believe all the work they're doing. I'm really going to miss my good friend, Councilman Cooper. We've been doing this for a number of years, and I wish you the best when we do move on. Mayor Kennedy, what a great job you've been doing. Today, she called a meeting because the school went to virtual this year. So she thought it would be a good idea that we get all the department heads together. And because we used to do that on a weekly basis at the beginning. And it just the leadership, it's there. Everybody's now on the same page. Everybody has masks that needs them. If the cases ramp up or something, Keyport's ready. And it's not ready just by a lark. It's ready because we're smart about this. And the leadership makes the right decisions and gets us supplies. And Jay Delaney, I sat down and talked with him last week. I mean, Keyport's going to be in such good hands with this guy. Just the way he answered the Mike Lane. I love him. He sends us out emails each week, and maybe it's in case we're losing focus on certain items. But the way Jay answered each of those questions, it's like we're not forgetting anything. We're just, sometimes it takes a little bit longer than we want it to. And it just, I like that. I like the way he responded to that. And I think Keyport's going to be in good hands with him as business administrator. And I'll probably have a couple more thank yous next month, but thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. You and Councilman Cooper are definitely going to be missed for sure. Okay, a few things. Actually, let me just switch. Okay, now we're back. Just wanted to touch base to remind people that every vote counts, and we're seeing that again as we watch and monitor the numbers for Election Day at the local level. 2 years ago, it wasn't until November 19th that Mayor Almack and I knew what the almost final numbers were. So we could potentially be in that same end date at this. I think the final end date for them to have them certified is November 20th. I know there was another update that went up this evening, but it's also a pretty impressive voter turnout. And to me, when you see an increase in voter turnout, that means that we have an active and thriving community that people want to be part of. And I think that speaks volumes on the work that has been being done. Good, bad, and different, whatever. I do believe we have a very active dais, and to have people that want to be part of that, and for people to come out in droves, even in the pandemic, whether they mailed it, whatever, the fact that they engaged in voting this year, I think speaks a lot to our community as a whole. So thank you, whether someone volunteered, whether they put their name on the ballot, whether they submitted their ballot, either way, thank you to the Keyport community as a whole for being involved in Election Day, as well as to Michelle Clark for her first presidential election as a clerk. That was completely turned upside down and inside out, including the county changing locations. And you didn't know it. There was no drama in town. People weren't saying, I don't know where this is. And I know Mr. Delaney, I was a little bit maybe pain in the butt about getting signage out about that. But thank you for adhering to that request so that we communicated everything to the public so that they would be aware of all the changes. So thank you for that, and the website updates and the social media updates about it all. And the signage that day. I think Patty even made signs herself at home. Is that right, Michelle? That she, just so people would know where to go because it was different this year. So, so thank you to all those efforts, all those efforts. As Council President Sharda did mention, Cape Port School District did make an announcement yesterday afternoon due to COVID cases that they did have to go to full virtual learning as of this morning. So that combined with some other situations going on, we just wanted to make sure that as we're hearing from the governor, that there is an increase happening in the state of New Jersey, that we are good to go. So there were people on a conference call today to report back to Jay as to what items they may need if we were to have to go virtually for work in Borough Hall, just to keep things going. So thank you for everyone that reported back on what they might need. And just a reminder, as everyone has already said, continue to remain diligent. You know, the more we plan and prepare, the less people panic. That was our motto from the first day of conference calls back in March. So kudos to all the staff and leadership from the senior center to the library, everyone that's just, you know, continuing to stay on top of their game and coming up with new ways on how they can do things. For our senior center to be having their normal weekly classes resume virtually was an undertaking for them, but they did it. They rose to the occasion, and they're making those things happen so that people that do have internet, and most senior citizens do now, believe it or not. So they're able to see their friends. They're able to do chair yoga by following the instructor at our senior center virtually. They're still doing their weekly Zoom meetings. They just did a newsletter. So there's definitely stuff happening over there, as well as all of the maintenance updates, and as well as at the library as well. So people are still working through it all. So thank you to everyone for that. In regards to Monmouth County CARES Act grant program, I did speak with the county, and to date, 66 businesses have applied to take advantage of that grant offering from the county. I do not have a number of how many have received grants or what the number is of funds issued or distributed, but 66 did apply for the Monmouth County CARES Act grant. And last week I was appointed to the mayor's reentry task force to work with different components on the reentry efforts that were set by legislation earlier this year. And other than that, there was two things that Mr. Lean mentioned. I think one was the 25-mile-an-hour sign that's already been addressed. TAP, I think that's a cumulative effort. Am I correct, Mr. Delaney? But you did provide feedback to him in his answer, in his email today too, on that, right? And then do you have an update on the CSR? And then one thing Mr. Lane did not ask, but I will go ahead and answer before he asks, so that the second part of public is that by the next meeting, we should have the tax assessor's report, because it's almost finished. So Jay, would you be able to speak about the CSR and the TAP?
Yes, first in terms of
Can't hear you again, Jay.
Can't hear Jay.
As far as the pedestrian safety improvement TAP project, as Mr. Lane indicated earlier in the meeting, the survey work along.
Can you hear him? Can someone shake their head if you can hear him?
Testing.
Yes, we hear you.
We can hear.
Okay. So the survey work for that project has been completed, as well as the preparation of the base map for that work. We have also completed a pre-design walkthrough of the entire site. The next step is the preparation of the preliminary plans and a public participation session that is anticipated for the first quarter of 2021, after which the plans will be finalized, go through the state review process, and then we'll be ready for construction and bid preparation. As far as the CRS question, that is the community rating system under the National Flood Insurance Program. I met with the designated floodplain manager today to move that project along. I do not have a specific timeline, but we do expect to complete during the year 2021 the submission of our application for the first phase of flood insurance premium reduction. Most of the work involved in this is the preparation of reports in compliance with the flood program in order to seek a level of compliance that will result in individual homeowners seeing a reduction in their flood insurance premiums.
Thank you. Thank you. And in closing for my report, I just want to say again, happy Veterans Day for tomorrow, and wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, because we don't meet again until December. We have one meeting this December, so there's really only one more meeting for 2020. So with that, we will now move on to the consent agenda. So any council members have any commentary for any items on the consent agenda? There is one that we have to make a notation of, that the wording for 26920, we are going to 6620. They are fourth paragraph. It should say, whereas this primary activity involves land within the borough of Keyport. Any council members have any commentary on any of the items R26320 through R27520? We will be tabling 26520. So when we get to that motion, we'll say that. Okay. So if there's no commentary for the items on the consent agenda, whichever council member motions, we would need the motion to everything except for 26520, and then the amendment to say within the borough of Keyport on R266 paragraph 4.
Motion to approve tabling 26520 and amending 26620 to read within the borough of Keyport.
Second.
Thank you. Can I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos. Councilmember Fotopoulos? I see him saying yes, but I can't hear him.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Good.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
And Councilmember Sheridan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have an introduction of ordinance authorizing easement of Veterans Park to Monmouth County for open space purposes. Michelle, would you please read the ordinance by title?
So this is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, authorizing easement to the County of Monmouth for open space purposes at Block 94, Lot 45, and Block 124, Lots 12, 13, and 25 at Veterans Park.
Can I please have a motion to introduce?
Motion.
Second.
Can I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Yes.
Councilmember Good.
Yes.
And Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
And Councilmember Sheridan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Can I please have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for the public hearing?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstain or no? Great, thank you. Next, we have communication by consent. and for approval of, nope, we don't even have any receive and file. Sorry, we only have for approval. So is there any commentary on that one item? If not, can I please have a motion to approve item number 1? I think that's the shortest item communication report I've ever seen. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitopoulos.
Yes.
Councilmember Good.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
And Councilmember Sheridan.
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes October 20th, 2020 and November 2nd, which was a special meeting, 2020.
Motion.
Second.
Just keep in mind when you're voting on this, if you weren't there, you would have to abstain for that date. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Cooper.
I think I was at all of them, but yeah.
Councilmember Fitopoulos.
Yes.
Councilmember Good.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember Sheridan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have reports of departments. Municipal Clerk's report for October 2020, Tax, Water, Sewer Collector's report for October 2020, Board of Health Treasurer's report for October 2020, Building Department monthly report for October 2020, Municipal Court monthly report for October 2020, Clean Communities report for August 10th through October 14th, 2020. If I can please have a motion to receive and file this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Great, thank you. New business, we have 2020 best practices inventory. Mr. Delaney is going to speak on that. He's just coming up to the dais so he can speak on the speaker. And hold on one second.
Thank you, Mayor. This item requires no formal action of the governing body, but it is required that the matter be placed on an agenda as well as available for review and any discussion by the governing body. The best practices inventory is a state-required submission that includes some 60-odd questions that cover a variety of management and operating policies within the borough. Specifically, there are questions related to finance, personnel practices, purchasing and procurement. This year, there are a number of questions specifically related to COVID activities and policies, and then other questions regarding the borough's participation as either a provider or recipient of shared services, together with questions on stormwater management, planning, economic development. It's a virtual cornucopia of questions regarding activities and operations within the borough. The best practices inventory has been prepared by the CFO in conjunction and in consultation with myself. The CFO has submitted this, and at this time, if there are any questions that the governing body has regarding the inventory that has been submitted, I will also note that one of the related issues is that the scoring of the questionnaire impacts the amount of state aid that the borough receives. A small, I believe a 25% portion of the state aid that the borough is entitled to is contingent upon scoring above a certain threshold. The CFO has indicated, and the submission reflects, that the borough will receive the full allotment of state aid this year without any reduction resulting from any deficiencies highlighted within the best practices inventory. So again, Mayor, if there are any questions, I know this has been distributed to the governing body. Some of these questions are repeats from prior years. And as I mentioned earlier, this year there are a number of questions related to COVID policies and practices within the borough.
Any council members have questions on that? Okay, thank you.
Mayor.
Unfinished business. Any council members? Attorney's report.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay, can I please have a motion to open to the public for 5 minutes per person?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Any members of the public wish to speak? Please, if I'll do video first. If you're on video and wish to speak, please raise your hand. Andrew, you're shaking your head no. Is that you don't want to speak or you can't hear me? I don't. Did he want to speak? No. Okay. Okay. I don't see any other members of the public raising hands. So can we go to the phone line? If you're on the phone line, you would like to speak, please unmute yourself and we'll take one person at a time.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Graham?
Elmer Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. The Complete Streets Initiative, are there going to be any more meetings for the public?
Yes. They're putting together, they'll end up being virtual because of the pandemic, but more information will be coming forward on that. And that's a great segue into putting a reminder out there that there is a survey that has been circulated throughout many social media pages as well as on the borough website. And I encourage all members of the community to partake in that survey.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Any other members of the public wish to speak?
Michael Lane.
Hi, Mr. Lane.
I wanted to give real positive feedback on the cleanup of the beach behind the borough parks, Cedar Street, Benjamin Terry Veterans Park. The Public Works Department did a fantastic job. And Jay, thanks for getting that done. I walked the beach today and it was just delightful to see all the debris gone. But we still have to work the problem of eliminating the source of the debris, the erosion at the American Legion. I'm sorry, not American Legion, Aero Marine. The second thing I want to congratulate the borough on is that when the Elks were soliciting for funds on 11/7 and 11/18 or 17 and 18, they all wore masks and they had their buckets on a pole. I think that's a fantastic change over what was happening with the Knights of Columbus with no mask and coming right up to the cars. So that was a very positive result. I still think the borough should work on a marijuana dispensary ordinance, just like we have a liquor ordinance. You have to be so many feet from another liquor establishment or from a church, setbacks, etc. What neighborhoods the dispensary can be in. And if we hadn't done that, we would have a triple X activity on the highway commercial district. And so you can preempt it, and if the state comes along and makes it more restrictive, that's great. But I think you really ought to take leadership in that issue. A couple other items. Green Grove only has parking on one side of the street, and it's a very narrow street. So I would like to hear some feedback how you're going to change that situation with this grant you proposed. And then the other thing is the floodgate by American Legion Drive by the Fireman's Park. It doesn't make sense to operate it because it actually diverts cars from a shallower water along the edge of the post office side of the road into deeper water in Fireman's Park. Why would you ever do that? And I encourage you to make a cut through the island just south of the mailboxes to solve the problem of diverting the cars into deeper water. Oh, I'd appreciate feedback on any of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. We can provide feedback at the next meeting regarding the commentary you brought up about the Green Grove comment. And in regards to the floodgate, I think I've mentioned this before, life isn't permanent. If we see that it's going to be a continuous problem, which we have not identified it to be yet, but if it were to become that, it can be moved or a secondary one can be installed. And I think it's a matter of review. And I think sometimes you have to, we sometimes, including from yourself, Mr. Lane, you say you don't see progress on certain things happening. Here we're trying to, try something out. If it doesn't work, we can change it. And I am sorry, but we have engineers and we have chief of police, the captain of police department that, is who we have as our professionals operating our borough as well as an administrator. And if they've all consulted and that's where they wanted it to go, along with our MPP executive director, I say give it a try. It's still better than when, for 5 years that I complained about the sandbags and no one did anything about it, right? So I commend that there's at least efforts moving forward. Is everything perfect? No, but did we also have a hurricane in with a full moon tide? When the first week the gate went up, so of course that's when everyone took pictures of it and said, "Oh, this is horrible. Why did we do that?" Let's see what happens in the next full moon high tide. If it has to be moved, it could be moved.
I will share with you. It's flooded more than 12 times in the last 2 months, and the projections from the study we did on the flood damage prevention ordinance said it would flood about 50 times a year. And that data is available.
Actually, no one is denying your data. No one is saying that you haven't given us your information. But those are our professionals, and they differ on their opinion on it. Not about whether it floods or not floods, about where the gate should go. And I really don't want to go back to sandbags and ugly cones. So I think this is a safer way. And there's other things that still have to happen. I mean, when the porta potty goes, floats away too every time we have a high tide there. So I think some acknowledgement that it's a work in progress, right? So, and I commend the people that have been open to that idea. Literally 5 years I've been asking for some kind of gate or something on American Legion Drive. So the fact that the committee took that idea and ran with it and had something that's only going to get better when there's lights on it. There's nothing on Stone Road. There's nothing in Union Beach. I think we have to look at the efforts that are being made. And if it needs to be tweaked, then those conversations will happen. And we do appreciate your feedback, Mr. Lane, but sometimes we have to move along with something. And then if it gets tweaked, it gets tweaked.
Well, I would suggest you get a cost estimate of what it would be to cut through just south of the post office mailboxes. I'm sure the Public Works Department. There's also that's one of the most dangerous intersections in the borough. So to make that have a cut through where people are then going to try and cut across onto West Front Street to try and cut over to Beer Street, that whole area is there for design of traffic safety. So I don't know that everyone's in agreement with that proposal, which is why the floodgate got put in where it was put in. So again, it could be moved. We can add a second one. If the flooding is bad, we can add a second one for when it's a higher tide. But when the average time that it doesn't flood up and we can't obstruct the post office from coming in and out of their business, maybe that's another option. Maybe when the post office leases up, whatever other building operates in there, whatever business operates in there, maybe we ask them to move their driveway and that they exit out on the other side of American Legion Drive where the flooding isn't happened, and then we can move that gate. All of those things are in the near future, nearer than farer. So these are all conversations that we can look at, but it's not, no one's getting hurt by trying to bring awareness to something that awareness was never brought to before. The moving a cut, or one car with cut one way just north of the mailboxes would not create a traffic problem.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Any other members of the public have anything to speak about? Can I have a motion to close to the public?
Motion to close.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I please have a motion to adjourn with a happy Thanksgiving wish?
Motion to adjourn with a happy Thanksgiving wish.
Second.
Everyone stay safe. And if I can just have all in favor on that.
Aye.
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 Great.
Night.
Stay safe. Stay safe.